What is up, cinephiles? Welcome back to Screen Kings. For today's video, I'll be doing a non-spoiler review of The Suicide Squad, directed and written by James Gunn, now showing in theaters or streaming on HBO Max, depending on what option is available to you. And this should not be confused with the 2016 film Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer. Anyway, the setup remains to be the same. We have here Amanda Waller, played by the ever-compelling Viola Davis, as the director of this Black Ops organization called Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, and they're taking on deadly missions using the most dispensable and the most dangerous criminals in the country. For this particular chapter, they're looking forward to infiltrate this scientific facility, which is believed to be housing this enormous giant alien power. Returning regulars are Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, Joel Kinnaman playing Colonel Rick Flag, and Captain Boomerang played by Courtney. And then the rest are a bunch of new characters, with the de facto leader being Idris Elba as Bloodsport. Now, quick reminder guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit the subscribe button for weekly reviews of movies and TV shows. And while you're at it, give this video a like because it really helps the channel. Now, you might be asking yourself again, why the Suicide Squad reboot? And I feel like I need to give a little backstory for those who are not caught up to things. Basically, what happened is James Gunn got fired over those old and offensive tweets. I've honestly not seen those tweets, so I have no idea what they're about. And Warner Brothers did the smart decision of picking him up and basically telling him like, we want to work with you, take a pick of any of our properties that you want to work on. And James Gunn said, I want to take a crack on Suicide Squad. And hence, we have here the reboot / sequel of the Suicide Squad. Well, it still acknowledges the 2016 film, though it does not make any reference. It uses some of the characters from that film, which is great because I really enjoy some of these characters reprising back, especially Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Now, this is an ideal case for Warner Brothers because this is what happens when you have such a talented and excellent filmmaker like James Gunn and not restraining him to any studio-dictated creative choices. You can feel that this movie all throughout is the work of James Gunn. It has his thumbprint all over, which is usually a good thing when it comes to achieving that director's vision. And also, you make things easier by giving him big amount of budget. Not to mention that DCU these days, they're not really strictly following the continuity when it comes to this cinematic universes, given how things pan out when it comes to their movies, sequels getting cancelled. So this is a self-contained exercise for James Gunn. He can use any of these characters, kill them if he wants to, maybe with the exception of Harley Quinn, because that is a beloved character by Warner Brothers. He does not need to service any of these characters to be long-term heroes in the future installments. So that in itself is a lot of creative freedom for this director and writer. It's wild, it's violent, it's irreverent. There's never a dull moment in this movie. The energy is non-stop, and not every movie gets a chance to have a redo. So James Gunn really grabbed this by the horns and maximized the whole potential of this movie. And did he go overboard in some of the elements here? Definitely, and I was expecting that. And I'm actually fine with it because this is a comic book adaptation that could have used that maximalist storytelling, and frankly speaking, I think it's harder to pull off those types of storytelling compared to the minimalist one. First off, the violence, which is very evident in the trailer. This is an R-rated film. The movie spared no expense when it comes to blood and guts, bloodbath from start to finish. You can easily rename this movie as 100 Ways to Kill Someone During a Battle, and sometimes you feel like the movie is more concerned on how to off its characters, but because it's done with such layer of hilariousness and some touching moments, it does not go into an area that feels too nihilistic or almost pointless. So those two things, humor and violence, it's hard to mesh them together in a way that it won't come out as tasteless, so it takes a lot of wit. Also, James Gunn here, you can tell that he really care for his characters. I know this is a bit ironic to say considering he kills off almost half of the cast here, but you can sense that he's really trying to inject some introspective moments. Now, when it comes to that introspective moments, the film kind of takes its pause when it gets there, and I think that is the same problem that this movie shared with the 2016 film. Whatever issue that they have in their personal lives does not really tie up to the main objective of the film. Nevertheless, when you get to that sentimental moments, it never gets dragged for too long, so the tone is not disrupted, just like what happened to the first. James Gunn is making fun out of these characters, maybe at the expense of their humiliation or deaths, but he's not treating the whole thing as a joke. The heartfelt moments of the movie is not as heartfelt as the movie thinks it is, but I appreciate the effort here to make these characters to be more than just archetypal anti-heroes. I even felt something for the starfish. There's a starfish in this movie, and there's just one throwaway line that when I heard it, I kind of felt something. So it all speaks to the wit of the script and the weirdness. I think this is a key element for James Gunn because he just embraces the weirdness of the characters. Once again, we have this ragtag group. They're not the most likable or endearing compared to the crew of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But still, when you got that script that really capitalizes on their dynamic and each of their key character moments, and not to mention the performances, which are all great across the board. Now, my worry going into this movie is maybe James Gunn will be having a hard time trying to balance these characters because there are a lot of characters here, like around 15 maybe, but James Gunn does something early on in this movie to alleviate the problem. Not gonna say what it is, but the first 15 minutes of the movie dictates the tone that you're gonna have for the whole film. And yeah, the unpredictability is always there. No one here is truly safe, maybe again with the exception of Harley Quinn. That is not a spoiler because you're gonna have to watch and see for yourself if Harley Quinn makes it out alive. Every character here has this genuine moment where I felt like I was scared for their safety and I felt like they were going to die at any instant because James Gunn is not afraid to kill his darlings. Up to the very third act, you felt like, okay, we have a few characters left. I felt like this crew is already safe. No, don't get too attached. The action, excellent camera work all throughout. There's one particular action scene that's being shot from the reflection of a helmet. I thought that was pretty remarkable. And the cinematography is excellent. It's gorgeous. There are a lot of textured landscapes in here. There are some inspired directorial choices. Almost every scene pops. My favorite here would have to be one scene involving Harley Quinn when she comes out guns a-blazing and then you suddenly see some flowers sprouting behind her back. If you know the character arc of Harley Quinn, I think that's a good extension or symbolization of her feminine power, I guess. I mean, she's still deranged. I won't still be friends with her if this is real life we're talking about, but she's starting to get more woke. Considering she's been into past abusive relationships, so those explosions of color is an extension to the zaniness of this character and, you know, to expressionist, dreamlike state of the movie. Then we also have here returning key player Colonel Rick Flag, played by Joel Kinnaman. I don't give a damn about this character in the first film, but second film, he really grew on me. He has been allowed to get more personality and even jabs on comedic timing here. And I was rooting for this character, honestly. And then we have here Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba. This is somewhat of a remixed version of Deadshot, played by Will Smith. I think the original story here is he's supposed to play Deadshot, but they kind of left the door open in case Will Smith wants to reprise his role again. So they ended up using Bloodsport, but in terms of profiling, they're basically the same. Bloodsport is skilled at killing people using a wide array of gadgets. He has this troubled relationship with his daughter, so that adds a layer of vulnerability to this hardened exterior. You can see the world weariness that Will Smith showed in Deadshot, and Idris Elba does the same for the character of Bloodsport. Then we also have Peacemaker, played by John Cena. If you watch The Boys from Amazon, this character feels like it came from that show with all that bad costumes. When you get to examine his ideals, you might say that this character is a bit of a hypocrite. There's a lot of moral conundrums that this character brings, so that in itself is very much interesting that he's getting a spin-off series after this. And then let's talk about Ratcatcher 2, played by Daniela Melchior. She's a second-generation supervillain with a psychic link to rats. She's posed as this lazy millennial type of character, but I think her presence in the movie is rather sweet, and she forms a good bond here with King Shark slash Nanawe, voiced by the one and only Sylvester Stallone. Think of this character as somewhat of an amalgamation of the Hulk, then add Jaws. This is the character that you're gonna get. Also, he looks like a mascot from Maui and Sons. So those are only some of the characters that stood out for me, but I'm pretty sure that you can find a character or two that you can latch on and feel some rooting interest. Now, as a whole, I'm gonna say that this is the better version, obviously, and James Gunn really did himself a favor in taking onto this project. If you're not perceiving this filmmaker as the next big thing or the go-to director when it comes to comic book movies, this movie cements his spot, maybe on the same level of the Russo brothers, a hot take there, or maybe just a notch lower, but he really did a great job here. You can't accuse this filmmaker as going timid or going for the safe route. He really goes big here. The most outrageous film of DCEU. It's hilarious, it's horrifying, and heartfelt. Not necessarily in the equal measure, but this really works well. So I'm gonna give this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. But how about you guys? Did you find this movie amusing? Do you think it's overhyped? Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to us for weekly content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.